Friend functions are yet another thing that is present in C++, but not in Java. The whole idea is this. Friend functions are standalone functions, but if you declare them to be friends of a class, they can directly access private data members. That's it. So once again, these are standalone functions, so they're outside the class. So normally standalone functions cannot access private class data members, and you have to use get methods and so on, which is kind of inefficient. To make these standalone functions more efficient, we can say that some standalone functions can be friend functions to a class. That is, they're friendly, they're not going to do anything bad to the objects. And when we declare a function to be a friend function, they don't have to use get methods. They can directly access private data members. Okay, so remember, if you have a standalone function, let's say to overload the plus operator or the minus operator, things like that, as non-member operators, member functions, they have to access data through accessor, or that is get methods. And if you want to change something, you have to use the mutator functions or set methods. This can be very inefficient just because of the overhead of having to make a function call for each access, either whether you're reading or writing to a data member. You have to use a function call, which is kind of expensive in time. So instead of that, what you can do is set up functions and say that these are friend functions, and what that allows us to do is allows those functions to access data members directly without the overhead of function calls. This makes these friend functions much more efficient than non-friend standalone functions. So it's best to make non-member operator overload friends. So anytime you have them, if you are convinced that you want to make and there are many good reasons for doing this, that is making operator overloads non-members or standalone functions. If you want to do that, make them friends so that they can access data members more efficiently, but then you have to worry about whether these overloads are doing the right thing. Are they modifying something that should not be modified? That would be the disadvantage of having a lot of friend functions. If you have bugs, you have to track down all of the friend functions as well and make sure they're not doing something bad. Okay, so friend functions of a class are not member functions. They're outside, they're sort of standalone, but inside the class we declare them as friends, and then these standalone functions have direct access to private data members, just like member functions. The way to do this is to use the keyword friend. So friend is actually a keyword. You can't say int friend, for example. That would not be allowed. Because it's a keyword in C++, we put that in front of the function declaration in the class definition. Even though they are not member functions, we say that a certain function can be a friend. So operator overloads are the most common use of friends. So we will do this especially for things like the insertion, extraction operators. Almost always we will use friend functions so that we can now directly output things to cout or cin. Now the way Java got around this was to use system.out.printlines, and its solution to this way of setting up insertion extraction is very nice because it allows any object to be converted to a string. It's much more safe than what C++ does, but a lot of C++ programmers like doing friend functions for insertion and extraction. So the whole reason for doing this is that it improves efficiency. It avoids unnecessary calls to accessor, that is get methods and set methods. The operator must have access anyway. You might as well give it full access as a friend. So you can have any function be a friend function. Now if you think of friend function purity, are friends pure? If you look at the object-oriented style of programming, it basically says that all operators and functions must be member functions. So there are a lot of C++ programmers who believe that setting up a lot of friend functions violate this basic object-oriented principle. It is true. I mean, they're justified. It does make things harder to debug if you have a lot of friend functions and something is happening. Some mistakes or some bugs are occurring in your program. You have to track these down and figure out what all these different friend functions might be doing. It's not so bad. It's kind of similar to member functions, but they are outside the class. They can be anywhere. In the spirit of object-oriented programming, everything is sort of localized. You're encapsulating. You're saying that each object has this fixed list of member methods or member functions, and Java, that's what Java does. Java does not have friend functions, probably for a good reason. They didn't want to deal with this problem of violating some basic object-oriented principles. Is it advantageous for operators? It is very advantageous. You can allow all kinds of things, like even automatic type conversion, and we'll see that soon. It still has some encapsulation because we do have to say what all the friend functions are in the class definition. So if we want something to be a friend function, we have to say it in the class. So we actually do see it. So it's not like we have all these functions that are somehow randomly able to access data members of an object. No, only the ones that are declared to be friends in the class definition are allowed to access private data members. Remember, the whole reason for doing this is efficiency. So there are some advantages, and sometimes it just works. So we can also have friend classes. So we can have one class that's not related by, let's say, inheritance or anything like that, be a friend class to something else. Now in Java, the way this was done is with package public. That is, if you don't say public or protected or private, you are essentially, you're setting, and you have a class that's in the same package, then that class can have certain rights to access data members that other classes outside the package don't. So that's, in Java, that's how it's done, essentially. Java doesn't have friend classes. And, okay, so you can have entire classes be friends, similar to a function being a friend to a class. So class F is, let's say class F is a friend of class C, then all member functions of class F are friends of class C. So this is like saying, instead of listing all the different classes, instead of listing all the different functions that could be a friend of a class C, you can set up basically all the member functions of a class. This is one way, that is, it's not reciprocated. Friendship is granted, it's not taken away. So you can't say class F is an enemy of class C, and saying class F is a friend of class C does not imply that class C is a friend of class F. It's not reciprocated. So how do you do this? You just put in a statement, friend, class, and then name of the class. And this goes inside a class definition. Okay, so now the third thing that we will look at, I will put this in the next video, is references. We looked at overloading, operator overloading, that's not in Java. We look at friend functions and friend classes. Friend is something that we do not have in Java, although there's something similar, that is packages, or somewhat similar. And the last thing that we will look at is references.